But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it. And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last weekend.
Yeah. It started with a scathing comment on national television and exploded into one of the most talked about lawsuits in recent media history. Charlie Kirk, the firebrand founder of Turning Point USA, didn't just take offense when The View casually linked his organization to extremist ideologies. He took action, legal action. And not just any lawsuit, a $100 million defamation case that has daytime TV scrambling, lawyers scrambling, and the internet ablaze. Charlie Kirk is no stranger to controversy. A polarizing figure in conservative politics, he's made his name, speaking at college campuses, challenging progressive narratives, and rallying young voters. But this time, he wasn't just defending a personal brand. He was standing up for 5,000 students, high schoolers and college kids who flew across the country to attend Turning Point's Youth Summit in Florida. And when The View accused them, even indirectly, of consorting with neo-Nazis, Kirk decided enough was enough. The spark? A segment where Sunny Hostin, one of the show's co-hosts, commented on demonstrators waving hate symbols outside the Turning Point event and implied that the conservative group didn't do enough to distance themselves. The backlash was instant. Turning Point sent a cease and desist letter demanding an apology. What they got was a vague statement on air that barely qualified as remorse. To Kirk, it was a slap in the face. And so came the lawsuit. $100 million filed with the full force of media attention and political stakes. Critics called it a PR stunt. Supporters called it a stand for truth. But whatever side you're on, won. Things clear. It shattered the illusion that The View could say anything, anytime, and walk away without consequences. Inside ABC, the panic button was pushed. Executives convened emergency meetings. Legal teams combed through past episodes. How many other flippant statements had they let slide? How many accusations had gone unchallenged in the pursuit of ratings and outrage? Meanwhile, on live TV, the tension was palpable. Sunny Hostin, a former federal prosecutor, suddenly looked less like a confident commentator and more like someone calculating her own legal exposure. Her tone shifted from righteous indignation to nervous hedging. Whoopee. Goldberg, the show's veteran anchor, offered icy silence and weary glances. The usually boisterous panel seemed for once unsure of what to say. And the viewers? They watched, shared, and clipped every second of the meltdown. The clips went viral, hashtags erupted, and suddenly a legal dispute had become cultural theater. But beneath the laughs and memes was something deeper, a reckoning for a show that had long operated as a moral megaphone without ever facing the feedback. Charlie Kirk's critics were quick to mock the lawsuit. "He's just doing this for attention," they said. "This isn't about students, it's about him." But Kirk doubled down. He appeared on Fox News, podcasts, and social media platforms, not just to defend his lawsuit, but to challenge the media culture that enabled it. "This isn't cancel culture," he said. "It's accountability." That phrase resonated because while The View wrapped itself in the cloak of free speech, Kirk was asking a harder question. When does commentary cross the line into defamation? When does entertainment become character? Assassination? The View has long thrived on provocation. Its formula is simple. Bring together strong personalities, encourage disagreement, and let the sparks fly. But over time, what was once spirited debate had morphed into a theater of hostility. Opinions were no longer expressed, they were shouted. Disagreements weren't discussed, they were demonized. And in the echo chamber of applause and viral sound bites, truth often got trampled. Sunny Hostin became the unexpected face of that fallout. Her comments about uneducated white women and her condescending tone toward conservatives fed directly into Kirk's narrative. He painted her not just as a co-host gone rogue, but as a symbol of elitist disdain for middle America. And whether you agreed with him or not, the optics were undeniable. a Harvard-educated lawyer sneering at people who didn't go to college, and a media giant dismissing an entire youth movement as dangerous. The internet took sides. Hashtags like #NamSuTheView and Team Charlie trended. Conservative influencers praised the lawsuit as a bold strike against media bias. Progressive voices warned it was an attack on free press. And in the middle stood thousands of students who never asked to be at the center of a firestorm, but now found themselves labeled and libeled on national television. For ABC, the stakes were mounting. This wasn't just about settling a case, it was about credibility. Could The View continue to operate as usual, or would the network be forced to rein in its most explosive personalities? Would future shows be censored? Would guest appearances be micromanaged? The questions hung heavy in the air. Meanwhile, Kirk turned the spotlight into a megaphone. He didn't just file a lawsuit, he used it as a platform. "This is about the culture war," he declared. "This is about reclaiming truth from the media machine that distorts it for entertainment." To many, it sounded hyperbolic. But in the broader context of rising distrust in the press, his message found fertile ground. A Gallup poll released just weeks after the lawsuit showed that only 34% of Americans still trust mass media. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. Sunny. Hostin, once the unshakable voice of legal insight on The View, now found herself dodging legal landmines. Every word she said on air was scrutinized, every segment was dissected, and the once confident co-host seemed to shrink under the weight of scrutiny. And then came the real kicker, an internal leak suggesting that ABC's legal department had warned producers about this exact type of liability months earlier. That warning had gone unheeded. Now it was costing them dearly, not just in legal fees, but in public trust. The ripple effects reached beyond The View. Other networks began auditing their own programming. Producers quietly pulled risky segments. Editors bleeped a little more. And behind the scenes, PR teams worked overtime to prepare crisis strategies just in case they were next. But for Kirk, this was more than personal vindication. It was a statement, a declaration that the media no longer gets a free pass to slander in the name of ratings. He wasn't just suing to win, he was suing to change the game. And if you're wondering where it all leads, the answer is still unfolding. But one thing is certain, this lawsuit won't be forgotten. It has already changed how media operates. It's already made high-profile hosts think twice before throwing out casual accusations. And it's already sent a message to every network that free speech doesn't mean freedom from consequence. As for The View, their ratings might spike from the drama, but the damage to their credibility might last far longer than the headlines. And Sunny Hostin? She might want to dust off her law textbooks, because this time, the court isn't in studio. It's in session, and here's where you come in. Do you think shows like The View should be legally accountable for what they say? Or is this a dangerous step towards silencing free expression? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about media, accountability, and where we go from here, because this conversation is far from over.